Hey there, welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is Bronx Buzz program where we talk to reporters and writers and editors and journalists, people who write stuff so you can find out inside what they're thinking about as you go about your business and reading the news and understanding what's going on in the Bronx and the city. And in our second segment, we usually do some arts or performers, and we have a poet. Somebody who has put out a book of poetry, and we're going to take care of that in our second segment. In our first segment, we're going to say good evening to the senior reporter at The City, Yoav Gonen. Nice to see you again, and welcome to the Bronx Buzz.
Thanks for having me. Nice to see you.
You've written a bunch of interesting things. Let's just start. I don't want to laugh about it, but the city has like had a problem putting public toilets in place, and apparently now we're finally going to get that done. Can we talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, and I guess the question is when it'll get done. But they were talking since at least late 2019 about a way to get the cost for building park restrooms down. We did a story earlier in the year that highlighted the issue, including a bathroom in Ferry Point Park in the Bronx that was costing close to $5 million.
That is so
And
excuse me, that
yeah,
is so crazy.
yeah,
I mean, when I was looking at the costs of these new portable toilets, it's still a lot of money. Go ahead.
it's a
I'm
lot of
sorry.
money.
I
Well,
couldn't help but react.
of course, yeah. When you see those numbers, you know that the city has to try different things. I don't know if it was the COVID pandemic that delayed things or not, but they are just getting around now to launching a pilot. It won't start until next summer, but they're going to get these prefabricated steel bathrooms that are called the Portland Loo, and they're going to put one in each borough. And the units themselves cost under $200,000, but still, apparently connecting them to water and electricity is
Is a big thing.
very expensive here. So it's going to
And
cost more than 5 million total within the five.
it is a lot of money, but I have to say, one in each borough. You're not solving a lot of problems that way. How many of us have been in the old cement block bathrooms in our parks? I guess this would be an improvement. So when you said next summer, are we talking summer of 23 or 24?
2024.
Wow.
So even with the plan kind of almost a lock, yeah, it's still not going to happen.
You got to have a
But,
sense of humor. I don't know what else to tell you. We can't. And what I was thinking of when I read your article, or when I was thinking of, if we can't do this, how are we building, a new Penn Station, or I don't know all the other things that are out there.
that's right.
Anyway, let's talk about the city workforce, which it's an interesting thing. The mayor ended the vaccine mandate, but now you're backtracking. So people who are saying, well, wait a minute, why did I have to lose my job? Do I have to reapply for a job? And the city apparently is down maybe 23,000 workers. What's going to happen now, and how can they actually restock the city workforce so that the city runs even more efficiently?
Yeah, they did basically say if you were fired over this policy that's no longer a policy, all you can do is reapply, just like everybody else. And I know there's going to be some lawsuits and court battles over that
Mhm.
because people lost out on, even if they get rehired, they will have lost out on about a year's pay
A
and
year
work.
or more. It could be
Yeah,
more. Yeah.
yeah. And the mayor has basically said that the problem is that the city is too reactive when it comes to hiring. They just wait for people to come to the city. He's
Uh-huh.
talking about a new kind of proactive way to get people hired, and he's also talking about holding the civil service exams much more often than they do now
Oh.
because those lists sit around for multiple years before anybody's called about open vacancies. So yeah, they are talking about ways to tackle that
Do
problem.
you have a sense, when you think about 23,000 workers, you'd have to think that something is not getting done as a result. Is it out there? Is there a sense of what agencies are hurting or are like, well, I mean, I don't know, housing is well behind or inspections are well behind. In other words, what is the cost to the city? Because, of course, not to say that we don't want to hire more workers, but if we don't need them to run the city, I mean, you save a couple of dollars. I mean, I don't want to be like that, but let's be realistic. Do you have a sense of what's not getting done as a result? Or does anybody know?
There have been some stories out there about the building of affordable housing. That's a process that is much delayed. That the HPD, the agency that deals with that, is very short staffed and also has lost a lot of expertise. And also the Human Resources Administration, which manages social services and benefits, apparently that process is much delayed as well. So there is a human cost here as far as services.
That's interesting. And is there a rollout plan from a time perspective so that we could get a sense of, well, by 2024 or mid 2024, we'll have stocked, or now it's really just trying to start from scratch and bring them all in?
Yeah, I would have to look. They do kind of have to make estimates about the workforce in the budget. I haven't seen the latest numbers on that, but Adams has been a proponent of doing more with less as far as the workforce. A lot of people criticize the De Blasio administration for hiring too many people. They
Right.
bloated the city government to about 330,000 workers. I think in some ways Adams is trying to right size that. The question is some people might feel he could be going a little bit too far in trimming the workforce.
Let's move to education before we run out of time. You wrote a piece, hundreds of New York City elementary schools used a teacher's college reading curriculum. And Chancellor Banks, by the way, people know that he has a long history here in the Bronx, said it hasn't worked. What are the issues there? And one would wonder, what measuring stick we determine if it works or not. I mean, that we'd be here for another 10 hours trying to
That's right.
sort out in the city's curriculum. But let's just talk about what the curriculum is, what it was, and what the chancellor views for the future.
Sure. The main criticism, there's a few. The main criticism is that it tends to work best with students who come in with a certain kind of level of literacy already. That means they're getting read to a lot at home. They're engaging in a lot of conversations with their parents before they show up at school for the first time. They have a wide variety of books to choose from at the home, and obviously, high poverty kids typically tend not to have some of those things. And the major absence from the curriculum is a systemic phonics based program, which means that you're learning the sounds of letters and how to blend them together. You're learning them in a consistent and sequential way, and that curriculum doesn't have it. And
Wow.
the phonics instruction has proven to be very helpful, particularly to kids who have learning disabilities or who have dyslexia. But it's also shown to be a good way to teach, a wide variety of kids,
Yeah,
and they don't have that systemic and persistent quality to it in a lot of schools.
I think that the changing nature of the public school student, which includes now migrants, which includes many English as a second language learners, and so the way you just described it, it would make a ton of sense to have things that are phonically correct or phonically more general than as you said, they expect you to come in with a certain proficiency that might not exist for any number of reasons for a number of the children who are in our schools. So this is really a grade school reading program. It sounds like
Yeah,
even way down at the bottom at the
yeah,
early childhood level.
they're focusing on grades K to 2. That's where you traditionally learn how to read,
Yeah, of
and
course.
the main thing is there's different ways that kids learn how to read. Some kids with a program, it's called units of study. Some kids actually do fine with it, but they find that the majority don't. And the story we revealed for the first time just how many schools were using it pre-pandemic. There's no updated numbers, but it was in close to half of the elementary schools that were surveyed. It was almost 300 schools.
I have some sympathy for the chancellor who recognized this and wants to change it and get that into all the schools and all the places where it's needed is not an easy thing to do. So let's hope he's successful. Last thing I
That's
just
right.
want to touch on, we've got about a minute and a half, is I remember during the Black Lives Matter protests and seeing in particular one in the South Bronx, and there just appeared to be, from the videos we saw, abuse by police officers. Now that disciplinary action is actually taking place.
Well, in terms of the court, yes, a judge recently looks like there was a decision or that they were essentially going to be paying protesters about $21,000 per person, depending on how many people are part of this class
Oh, I
action.
didn't realize that there was going to be a financial award. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe you're talking about the CCRB, the Civilian Complaint
Right.
Review Board. They have uh, found quite a few cases of improper use of force by officers, particularly in that case. But I think that the majority so far of cases that have gone through the system and the commissioner has ruled on finally, uh, you're not seeing very severe discipline, if at all, in a lot of those cases.
That's interesting. But the monetary award is at least an acknowledgement. It's not a ton of money, but at least it's an acknowledgement that maybe people were treated unfairly. Listen, Yoav Gonen, senior reporter for the city. Your input on our program and to the people of the Bronx is vital, and we appreciate what you do. We appreciate all our friends over at the city, and thanks for joining us this evening and helping us figure out what the heck is going on. But look at the range of stuff you cover, whether it be education, whether it be the toilets in the parks, and all that is important to our lives, and we appreciate your time this evening.
That's great. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we go back, we'll change gears and we'll talk about poetry. Don't go away.